Welcome everybody to another episode of Main Street to Millionaires. Eric, I'm joined with Jess and I believe Tewa, right? Is how you pronounce your name? I
Aaron.
apologize. I'm horrible
No,
with names.
no, that's okay.
um, but we are highlighting this episode. Our entire podcast is surrounded by people that are kind of breaking the molds and introducing what makes them the best in their industry. So we wanted to give this platform out to learn about something that I don't really know much about. I don't think Jess knows much about either. Um, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what you specialize in?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Taran. I was born and raised in Arizona, and I went to college to study neuroscience. And towards the end of my degree, I was really interested in chemistry. So I ended up graduating and then doing a master's degree in organic chemistry. And that's where I studied broad spectrum antibiotics. So I got exposed to lab work, doing synthesis in the lab, creating novel drug compounds that have never existed before. I turned clear liquids into other clear liquids. In It's kind of like one of the jokes in organic chemistry is you take one clear liquid and then you turn it into another, and then you analyze it and see what you got. And I graduated in 2020, and so the job market shrank tremendously, and it was just really tough finding placement in the organic chemistry field. So then over the next few years, I was teaching and I was doing formulation chemistry. So I was helping a local bakery with food products to do formulation on different foods. And a friend of mine got me interested in CBD. He wanted to start a CBD company. I knew a little bit about hemp back then. I did know what CBD was, and I know that it was helping people, but I also knew that the products were not very strong from the perspective of a chemist, is has how I look at it. And I see them as being not very concentrated, not very pure. You don't really know what's in them half the time. And some people got benefit and some people didn't. So I started thinking, how could I innovate in this space if there was even room to innovate? And what could I do differently? Because I did not want to just start selling another product that's just like everything else that you see on the shelf. What really got me, in a way, passionate about it is I had a friend who was having seizures. Not really sure why, the doctors didn't know, but it was really affecting his daily life. Sometimes he would wake up in a seizure, other times he would get them multiple times throughout the day. And his brother had told me that CBD seems to help. They think it helps when he's in a seizure. If they give him the CBD, it will help him. It'll take him out of the seizure quicker. It'll reduce the side effects. It'll help with the muscle tone. So when he's tensed up, he gets all those muscle cramps. It'll help relieve that a little bit better. So I thought, okay, let me see what this is. I'm interested. And they had a tincture from some company. And it was very, in my opinion, it was weak. It was very low dose. It was about 500 milligrams in the whole container. So I thought, okay, what can I put in that container? How much CBD can I add to this to just make it more concentrated and stronger? I did some research. I found some medical literature where they did some CBD studies specifically for seizures, which I don't sell it for that. It's not FDA regulated for those purposes, but there is research on it. So it's anecdotal as well as some preliminary research findings, and it seems that it works. So okay, let's do it. I ended up making a 3,000 milligram tincture and a 6,000 milligram tincture. So the 6,000 is 12 times as potent as the 500 milligram one he had. And they started using that for a seizure. And it totally changed his life. He would end his seizure within about 5 minutes. If he had the aura of that seizure coming on, he would take the CBD ahead of time prophylactically, and his seizure wouldn't happen. He said every time he got the aura, he would try to lay down because he knew it was coming. Now he could just go about his day. He wasn't able to drive because of his condition. He was able to go back to the DMV and get approved to drive because he was no longer having just random powerful seizures. So I thought, wow, there's really a lot here. This is an alternative medicine. It's not made in the lab with clear chemicals. It's extracted from a plant. It's then purified. And I got interested in the alternative medicine space. That became pretty popular around 2020, 2021. People really started going out and learning more about Eastern medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and other ways to heal the body without the typical pharmaceutical interventions. And so it just kind of brought me on this path. So I ended up becoming a formulation chemist. I have my own CBD brand called Kokopelli, and I also help small businesses with cosmetic products as well as food items.
Interesting. So you said that you taught for 2.5 years. Were you teaching this like molecular chemistry, or was there a specific field that you were teaching before you kind of discovered the CBD?
Yeah, I was teaching chemistry labs to college students, and then I was teaching at a community college organic chemistry and general chemistry labs and lectures. So I would have lecture students for half the week, and then the other half of the week we had labs. So I was staying involved with general chemistry, analytical, organic on all the levels, as well as doing the labs with the students.
You are a better man than me. My length of chemical analysis is I drink a beer after 5 o'clock on Friday, and I turn that clear liquid into another clear liquid. That's like the extent that I have. So
Uh,
the fact that you can do that is pretty amazing. So how long? You said the CBD really started getting popular 2020 2021 to be more of a medicinal side of it, right?
kind of. So I think it really started around like 2010-ish is when people started looking into CBD. I didn't get into
Okay.
health personally until 2020 to 2021. That's when
Okay.
I found kind of an interest in it. But by then, in my opinion, the well was poisoned by then of too many poorly made products, low potency products, right? Impure products were out there. So it had like a gold rush period where everyone was going into it and everyone was interested in those medicinal properties of the hemp plant. And then it kind of petered out. So I'm kind of on the tail end of the trend, but I've realized there's a medicinal value here. And it's something that people don't know enough about. It's not that well understood. People very much always assume it means marijuana or cannabis or weed. They think they're either going to get high, and that's not what CBD does. It's not psychoactive, and it has a very broad range of like healing benefits.
Absolutely. I personally have used it on a number of um, medicinal issues. So I have inflammation issues in my joints. I'm a somewhat large individual. I think I'm 6'5", 315 ish, 320.
Just
So
five, wow.
especially in my knees, like the inflammation and stuff is very very difficult sometimes for me walking and things like that. And absolutely, and honestly, there's some of the lower milligrams that you were describing, they're like 500 milligrams.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't always take away from it because it's probably not a strong enough dose, but it absolutely is helpful and taking care of that. What do you believe is the most useful side of CBDs as far as the medicinal uses?
So I'm gonna have to get you a Kokopelli CBD 6,000 milligram tincture. It's very
Yeah.
strong. There's another guy who buys it. He's 6'5", 6'6", similar issues with inflammation. I find that it works best depending on the person and a different modalities. So for someone who has inflammation problems, where it's systemic inflammation, their joints hurt, maybe they have arthritis, if they have a robust endocannabinoid system, they respond really well. And so the endocannabinoid system, it's all mammals have it, and it's essentially the tissues of your body, the organs and receptor sites, and how binding or modulating those receptors can help a wide range of problems, ranging from anything that has to do with inflammation, pain, or even emotional regulation. So, someone with inflammation, if their body receives CBD well, it helps tremendously. It's one of those things where you have to just try it and see if it works. It doesn't work for everybody. I would say it works for most people. I found most people find a benefit. And I think the most common reason people seek out CBD is for pain relief and inflammation relief. But also, a very close second would be sleep and anxiety.
Sleep and anxiety. It's
Yes.
almost as if I know somebody that has those issues too.
Don't we all? Yeah. It's really great for that. What I've found, like if I have issues sleeping, I'll take it 30 minutes before bed. My problem is usually I can't get comfortable or I have racing thoughts. And it usually calms your mind down. Those 10 thoughts kind of coalesce into one thought. And that one thought is you wanting to go to sleep, and then you're out and you get a good night's rest. And then for
Hmm,
anxiety, it's great for those same reasons, right? Sometimes we're just too overwhelmed with everything we have to do. It's tough sometimes to just take the first baby step to just get something done. There's 10 things. What should I do? Kind of overloaded. And I found CBD has helped me and others focus in on one thing at a time. When you think of 10 things, it doesn't stress you out as much. You just think, okay, I took a mental inventory of what I have to do and let me just go do it.
nice.
Yeah.
So you you had mentioned that you have your own CBD brand,
Yeah.
uh, Kokopelli, if I remember,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Kokopelli. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Kokopelli hemp. I also call it Kokopelli CBD. I think
Okay.
people are familiar with hemp. So I think that might be a better way to, educate people on what hemp products can do and help, draw more attention to CBD because CBD, stands for cannabidiol and people really associate it with marijuana and it really isn't the same thing. It's much more of a healing chemical or molecule from the hemp plant than it is something that inebriates you.
I always think of Hampos and like rope.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
where can someone find Kokopelli?
So currently, you can find it online at www.trykokopelli.com. You could also find me at a farmer's market in North Scottsdale. And I'm working to get into more locations such as chiropractic offices, doctor's offices, veterinarian clinics. I also make a pet product, and it's incredible for pets, and wellness centers and other holistic places. You won't find it in just a grocery store. You'll find other CBD brands, but there's a lot of hoops you have to go through to get into a big branch store. And it's interesting if you go in, you see these other products and they look nice, but they all really look the same and they're all very low dose. And so that's what
Yeah.
sets my product apart from the others is that Kokopelli CBD is pure CBD. There's no THC at all in any of the products. So anyone can use them and they're very high dose. And the medical literature shows that you need a high dose of CBD, but the market gives everyone low doses. So I'm bridging that gap and bringing people high dose, high potency, high purity CBD.
So is that part of the FDA regulation that is the reason why they are more regulated, so they're more available on the low dose side? So
Mhm.
it's harder for the FDA, or maybe not harder, but there's a lot more hoops to jump through the higher the dosage, for say FDA to be able to approve things and um, pass it to a bigger scale. Or is there something else that falls in line with that?
Yeah, there's something else going on. So CBD still is not regulated yet by the FDA, and they're working to regulate it, but there are no official guiding rules or framework for how CBD can be bought, sold, produced, etc. So I believe as a chemist, what I see in these products is a lot of these companies are selling broad spectrum CBD or full spectrum CBD, um, which basically is impure. It's an impure oil. It's CBD plus all, hundreds of other cannabinoids and terpenes and plant products and side products, things that are not just the CBD molecule. And then full spectrum is the same as broad spectrum, but it also has THC. So what I think is going on is I think the industry it's a lot cheaper when you manufacture CBD oil to just extract everything and put it in a bottle. You do one extraction, you purify the chemicals out, your solvents you use, and that's it. And you can just bottle it and sell it. To make CBD, you have to distill it or do subsequent separations to get a crystal powder. Pure CBD is actually not even an oil, it's a crystal. It's kind of like flour, but grittier. and it's off-white to white. So it's it's kind of interesting how that works. And so that process costs more money, takes longer. You need different facilities, especially at large scale. So I think that's what it was. I think it was just like a money move where it makes more sense. And at the time too, when CBD was taking off, people knew nothing about it. They really piggybacked onto that. Oh, this is like cannabis. So they're just like, this is an oil from the cannabis plant. It works just like marijuana, except you don't have to smoke it. Some has THC, some doesn't. And I think that's what the industry evolved around. And now I'm trying to, I guess, break that mold and let people know it doesn't have to be that way. It can be stronger, it can be more medicinal, it can be more pure, and it can actually help you without potentially having you fail a drug test or, be couch locked, as people say, you know.
That would be my next. That was going to be my next question. The higher dosage, there's no risk for you failing drug test or for it to affect any kind of employment requirements, right?
Not for what I sell. I sell pure CBD isolate. It gets third-party lab tested. Their limit of detection is so low that it would definitely find if there was anything in there. And every time it's not detected and it passes all those tests. It also goes through heavy metal testing, pesticides, fungal, the fungus stuff, biological media. And so it's very pure. And I have pilots that use it who get tested all the time. I have some truck drivers and other people in different industries where they cannot be using CBD products if there's THC in them. And that's one of the issues is full spectrum, which I do not sell, has THC in it. And a lot of people don't know. They don't understand what it means. They're not educated enough on it. The people selling it don't really tell you, especially early on. They would take CBD, fail a drug test, lose their job. I've heard a lot of different stories about that. And so, yeah, I've heard the worst stories where people have lost their job for just trying a CBD product. And other stories where people got lucky. The doctor or their boss said, all right, let's test you again, let's see if you tell the truth. And
Taran,
yeah.
I I'm the first one that will tell you that I've always been kind of afraid of this, but you make it sound to me almost like how I have my essential oils. Like there's the pure and there's the different. Like when I listen to you, it sounds like holistic and
Mhm.
medicinal and that's just not what my concept was before. Like I'm very it, I didn't expect to hear all of this
Mhm. Yeah.
at
Well,
all.
yeah, exactly. That's one of the issues that I think a lot of people end up having with contemplating using CBD is the perception is not it's not accurate, I guess, and that's because of the way the industry has been functioning for so many years. But also it has to do with the fact that so many companies out there don't sell isolate products, or they do in conjunction with broad spectrum and full spectrum, and it's hard to separate the two out, whether you're going to get high or not, whether you'll fail a drug test or not, whether there's THC or not, because that knowledge base, the average consumer doesn't really have it. Right, and that's how there's a lot of things. Like I love cars, but I'm not like a car guy. So when my car has issues, I need someone else to help me with it. I can't necessarily diagnose them. I don't really know what's going on. And you can be led astray. I've brought my car to one shop and they want $5,000 for the repairs. Off the top of my head, I think, okay, sure, that's what they said. But I bring it somewhere else and then they tell me, oh, I can do it for 3,000. That's a massive difference. Then you bring it to a third guy and he's doing it for 1,800, out the door, and you're realizing, okay, I don't have the knowledge to know really what I'm paying for. And so it's easy to just, okay, I'll just pay the 5,000 if I don't have the time to get two more quotes. So a lot of people with CBD, I'll just buy it, I'll take the drink, whatever, and then they end up not feeling well, or they don't like the outcome, or they get drug tested, and now their whole life is upended. And I don't want to do that to people. I'm approaching it from that holistic, naturalistic perspective, and I want to provide a pure product that's beneficial to people, but doesn't have any sort of weird, you know, um, ramification on your life if it's not what you thought it was.
So as far as cars go, everybody has a guy down the street that could fix your car for $20, an apple core and a rubber band, right? So Taran is our CBD rubber band guy. That's what I'm hearing, Jess. Like I just need to go to him and find out, how we get this stuff done better, cheaper. So it's good to know. Um, as far as the industry, obviously getting people to know the realities and the truths behind it, the fact finding, and getting rid of the misnomers, right? What would be the thing that you would like to see the industry to take the next step forward? Because you said, as far as the gold rush, it's kind of on the tail end of it, but it doesn't mean the industry's dead. It just means that like the hype that people were super excited about to begin with is no longer relevant, right? Now you're getting into more of the meat and potato side of it. So as far as the industry goes, what would you like to see the industry get to, and where would you like this to go for you?
It's a great question. It's kind of a tough one because it's tough to build a business in an unregulated space. I've never built a business before, so I'm figuring everything out day by day. And I've noticed that when it's unregulated, you can do a lot more stuff. I don't need necessarily a huge facility or all these licenses. There's no necessary taxes on it. There's no certifications. And so those things can be good to create a product that falls in line with necessary rules, but it's also risky that those rules become cumbersome and regulate people out of the industry. So for instance, government recently in one of those bills they passed, like a spending bill, they snuck in a line about CBD products and they want to essentially outlaw CBD products that have THC in them. So what's interesting is for me, that could be a good thing because I don't even deal with that anyway. So it doesn't affect my business at all. But it could be a bad thing because then maybe all the big businesses start doing this too, see what I'm doing, do it better, faster, stronger. But competition could be healthy. What could be worse about that is the ramifications of, okay, if we're going to regulate CBD to make sure there's no THC in it, what does that look like? Does that look like every product has to get tested every month? Does it look like you have to be inspected? Do you have to follow different rules and now pay an additional tax on top of everything just to function as a business? So in terms of the space where I want to see it to go, I think for the industry is they need to put out more education, do some studies on it, and really separate out what the different products are. So full spectrum, broad spectrum, and isolate. I guess it's really an education issue, and we need more people making videos, more people talking about it. I think doctors need to be informed much more, so they all do these continuing education credits. There should definitely be some CBD stuff in there because the host of issues it can address. I have partnered with a neurologist, and he refers his patients to me for neuropathy. But people have neuropathic pain where they have burning in their hands or in their feet. They have sciatica, and the product works really, really wonderful for them. The ones who are willing to try it usually get really good relief. So that is a doctor who took it on himself to do the research, to learn about the plant, to learn about the medicine, and then is willing to partner with someone like me who makes a pure product that he's evaluated to help his patients to circumvent a typical pharmaceutical intervention.
Mhm.
And the same goes
So
for pets too.
for the education side to incorporate more doctors, um, I know that challenge by itself with big pharma essentially pushing doctors almost. I don't want to put this out there like every doctor's this way, but I do know several doctors personally, and they have told me like, yeah, we basically allocate medicines based off of the sponsorships that we're getting back from those prescriptions. The TV commercials for, you know, all of these medicines and stuff like that. Like they're not spending that money
Mhm,
just to let you know that their medicine works. They're spending that money because it's a cash grab, right?
mhm,
And a lot of these doctors, they get perks by using those medicines. So um, you'd almost have to figure out a way to incentivize a doctor to push the envelope
Mm.
and go on record and saying the CBD is going to help them? Is there a way that you could see that being done aside from just paying them to do it, or is there a way to kind of bring them into the fold as a partnership for a blossoming company that you're building?
Mhm. Yeah, it's tough because big pharma does have a pretty strong hold on many doctors. They have power through insurance companies, so doctors will only get reimbursed for certain procedures or certain medicines. Then there's all those weird contracts. I also know some doctors too who, one in particular showed me a contract. If they sell X amount of X pharmaceutical, they make an extra $30,000 a year. If they sell even, and so those incentives should probably not be fostered. They probably shouldn't be around because, does the medicine work or not? At what point does a doctor who has a license to practice medicine, supposedly the way they want, not practice medicine, uh, I guess you'd say properly because they have a financial incentive to push a product. So big pharma has the money and the power to affect that in the market with doctors' offices and these corporate owned facilities and chains and all of that. And I think really it comes down, it's like an ethical and moral question. Should a doctor push something that they don't necessarily believe in because they're getting paid? Now, on the flip side, some of these medicines, are great, right? We have amazing medications and, pharmaceuticals and things that work wonders for people, right? A great example is insulin, antibiotics, which work well, and so many other things, statins. There's things that people need that you need traditional allopathic medicine for. So what will get the industry or doctors to promote CBD is probably if they can be reimbursed for prescribing it, if they was a mechanism for whereby they also were compensated for recommending CBD, but not in the sense that, hey, we'll pay you all this money if you push it on all your clients. Maybe it should be a level playing field where there's a cap for all things. And so a doctor gets to pick and choose which ones they agree the most with or believe in, and they can have the same amount of financial gain on their side for recommending the correct medications. If they, right, if we went back to like the Purdue Pharma era before those lawsuits, doctors were getting paid a lot of money to push OxyContin on anybody. One of the most egregious cases I saw was a 12-year-old girl who broke her arm, and they were prescribing her 90 OxyContin a month. So that's just she could die. That's insane, and stuff like that should not be happening. So if there was a cap and a floor to where a pharmaceutical company had to say, okay, you can do this this method of incentivizing doctors to push medicine, but you have to do it with a broad range of products. Then a doctor has a lot more leeway to say, okay, great, I can make some more money, but I can also supply the right things to my patients. But that's going to take a lot of lobbying from people like us, I think.
You know
So
what's crazy? When I lived in Maine, when I was going for my master's, part of my HR class was about um, people who are on the job under the influence of marijuana.
Mhm.
And it was this would have been 15 years ago, I think.
Okay.
And it was so controversial at that time because it was looked at different than drinking.
Mhm.
And then there were so many people who had back problems. There were certain doctors they knew they could go to. And during like when I was trying to like look at this and research it, um, it was more of a holistic approach than the people, like you said, like the oxycodone or
Mhm.
cotton. I never know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
codone,
Um, Codone?
codone.
Well,
Codone.
there's oxycodone and oxycontin, and it
Okay.
sounds like
Yeah.
cotton, but it's like, yeah, I would always say oxycontin. And that was like the big one for Purdue Pharma. But sorry,
Yeah.
mm,
Seemed like that was so much worse for people
mhm,
and that they like I didn't know at the time just cuz like I was looking from an HR standpoint, but just how it was used and how they had to stay on it and stuff. I've never looked back like after I graduated to see the studies or the dependencies and how they did, but I do know just personal, like this is not scientific back, just personal friends that I've had, the ones that happen to be on like go the pill route did not end up nearly as well as the people who like got the medical card.
Mhm.
And I don't have the scientific backing, but going off of my friends, I looked at it and I was like, I, I, like this one's supposed to be bad and this one's supposed to be good. And it just, I'm still torn, like listening to it, but I feel like the more that I hear and the more that I learn, it's not scary as I thought.
Mhm.
So the beautiful thing about this is, I guess in that 15-year span, right? If you look at
Mhm.
the narrative now, so we're almost in West Virginia. Taran, I grew up in West Virginia. There's a Netflix special out,
Mhm.
in biography. There's a small town in southern West Virginia that has less than 400 people that live in that town. There were millions of Oxycontin pills prescribed out of this town a month.
Oh.
It was one of the like epicenters of the opioid pandemic, to the point that they changed sweeping regulations throughout the state for doctors writing out narcotic prescriptions. Lots of doctors in the state were getting arrested and charged federally because they may have been prescribing it on a more normal basis, but because of this small town and how massive it was, there was no room for regulation. Like they absolutely just hammered people, right?
Yeah.
And now you look at it right across the river in Ohio, marijuana, which I understand the difference between CBD and marijuana is vast. It's night and day difference. But just to speak on what Jess was talking about, is a recreational drug now. You can walk around with it in your pocket and there's nothing that can be done with it. Whereas 15 years ago, you were getting arrested for it. And it was absolutely shunned versus you having an Oxycontin prescription. You know what I mean? It goes to show that Big Pharma's control and their narrative um, is unmatched as far as what's being pushed and what's being pushed out there, which leads back to education. You know what I mean? Having a real understanding of the difference between a heavy pain killing prescription versus uh, CBD as far as pain management. I know several people with cancer that deal with CBD rather than getting prescription meds because it works better. It's more accessible for nice and clean. And it also doesn't leave them feeling like they are killing themselves
Mhm.
just to be able to manage pain from something that's killing them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's incredible how the few outweigh the many when it comes to the education of that. So I really agree with your premise behind it. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like the people have spoken and they wanted recreational marijuana. They felt that their experience with it can help them a lot more than all these medications. And to Jess's point earlier, you see people using these pills and they're very addictive. Opiates are very, very addictive. So even people who didn't just want them for pain, they then found out that they're having withdrawal symptoms without having that pill and they felt miserable. And those withdrawals can be really intense. So you're incentivized then to just take another pill, get just to keep going about your business as usual. And then doctors are prescribing them. So like when she talked about her master's degree and the difference between, being high at work with marijuana, it used to be where you couldn't really tell, people didn't know. If you get high at well, of course, right? If you put eye drops in, if you didn't smell, and it was like essentially more accepted as a person, you could accept it more because you can't drink at work. It's hard to stop that one. Your breath is going to smell. And certain pills will make you fall asleep or you look doped up. So there was, the culture shifted from hiding it to, okay, let's make it medicinal. And now people can use it after work. or many hours before work or at night, and it's not a stigmatized thing. You're not going to get arrested for it. Uh, it can still happen. It's still federally illegal, and some states are more lenient than other states. But people, especially like the health and wellness space, if it grows out of the ground, you should be able to use it. And it's all about moderation and being responsible with it. People can definitely smoke way too much if you eat too many edibles. What's nice about CBD is you really can't do too much. The amount you'd have to do to cause a problem, you would have already vomited and given up and gone to bed before, anything bad could really happen to you. And what's interesting about the thing in West Virginia, you said that small town, millions of pills, it's like, what were they giving it to all the birds? Like how are these people even physically consuming all these pills? So I'm sure,
People would
yeah.
people would drive into the town and deal with that doctor.
Oh, I
And
see. So,
so people would travel to this town. He would write the scripts, and there would be millions of pills coming out of this town. But you think like they have to like deliver all of them to this town. So if you look at the I guess the shipping invoices and stuff like that,
yeah.
like that doesn't throw a big red flag up that you have 4 million Oxycontins being delivered to a town of 400 people. Like that should have raised a huge red flag. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's a testament. So it really got me thinking now. I know Jess can't say anything, but
Mhm,
I'm my own boss. I don't care. I can't fire me. I don't care how much I try. But
mhm,
I
Mm-mm, mm.
mhm,
I have on occasion
mhm,
tried to find alternatives because I have um an incredibly overactive mind. I don't stop thinking. Like I don't sleep much because I'll lay down and think of things for hours, right? It and we have mutual friends of ours that has said, "Hey, we have medicinal card for marijuana, and we have dispensaries in this area. Is there something that we can give you, and you can try to maybe slow down your thinking and stuff like that?" And it was like an edible or something like that that they got me a little pack of edibles, and it was not intended for me to get high. It was only intended for that purpose,
mhm.
but it had the THC and everything in it to where it did have that adverse effect, right? So I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe like slowing your mind down is not the THC side of it. Maybe it was the CBD side of it, and the THC was not necessary, right?
Yeah.
People that have arthritis or chronic pain like that, they smoke weed and say that it helps with arthritis and stuff like that. Maybe it's not the marijuana that helps you with arthritis. Maybe it's a CBD that's infused into that that actually helps, and they just don't know it yet. They're not educated on that separation of the two, to where that could be a transformative mindset. It's
Mhm.
really making me think sitting here just listening to what you told us. So it's
Eric, my mama, well, you know my mom,
yeah,
she is, I don't know how to describe her, but never would she ever touch anything CBD, marijuana. Her dog had surgery
Mhm.
and he was in so much pain. She went and she bought the doggy CBD, which
Mhm.
I almost like fell over when I heard this.
Yeah.
And he but for my mom to get to that level that she's willing to try that on her dog who is her baby,
yeah,
it's like when you're in an emergency and there's like and that's her baby and that you have to find a way, you have to find a way. It
Mhm.
was at that point she was able to research without it being all these pills because she's against pills and and it worked. And like I know a dog's not a human, but for my mom who would never touch that like and I'm not far from my mom, but I'm just saying,
Mhm.
like, she is just ultra conservative and
Yeah.
it worked for her, beloved puppy. I was like, what did she do? And
Mhm.
he's okay. Like, he's still recovering. He's not great, but
Yeah.
it helped him so much. And to see that shift, because I feel like 5 years ago, I'm not sure she would have done that. I don't know. It depends how bad her dog was like in pain, but like, I think there's a shift, and I think it's because one person has seen not like the bad side of it or what you see on TV, and they're seeing, hey, this helps, and they share it. And I think it's the slow growth, but it's even not with our age, it's the older generation. My mom's not old, she's older than me. I want her to stay young, but she, like, for her to do that, my eyes are just like, what? There's acceptance, and there is a slow acceptance happening.
Absolutely. And I think definitely social media's played a huge role. YouTube, people making their own videos, and then more people getting on the internet, willing to look at these videos. They're able to get educated that way. Typically, you have to get educated in school. Then you have to either read books on your own or get further education. Back in the day, it's how it was, or you have to meet someone who has some wealth of knowledge that they bestow on you. Now,
Mhm.
millions of videos on YouTube. If I really did want to fix my own car, I could totally go to YouTube videos. It's just I'm not going to trust myself with my car. I need my car. There's subtleties, there's nuance. It matters. I'm not going to mess with it. But when it comes to learning about, especially with medicine and alternative medicine, there's a lot out there. And so people's minds are starting to change. When it comes to what Eric was saying about the CBD is probably the beneficial part of, the brownie or something. Uh, Cannabinoids themselves, cannabinoid is a class of compounds, right? There are the mycin, which are a class of antibiotics. There are the statins, which is a class of drugs. Testosterone, the steroids, it's a class of compounds. So in the cannabinoids, the most abundant cannabinoid, other that you find, whether it's the the sativa or the hemp plant, cannabis plant, is the most abundant cannabinoid. So when it comes to that medicinal property of feeling relaxed and calming your mind, you're going to get most of that from the CBD. And then there's also hundreds of other cannabinoids. THC is tetrahydrocannabinol. It looks structurally very, very similar to cannabidiol, CBD, but it's still fundamentally different. And what THC does is you get that euphoria, and that's why people like it. CBD and other cannabinoids don't give the euphoria. So it's so interesting how a molecule could look so similar. And at first glance, you might even think it's the same unless you had the knowledge of, organic molecules. And you think, oh, what's the difference? It looks the same to me, but there's a huge difference. And what's interesting then is, okay, well, what's the percent of THC in a plant? The percent of THC you'll find will be lower than what you might find as the percent of CBD, but THC is incredibly potent. And so in like the pharmaceutical industry, they talk about nanomolar scale, meaning they want a drug compound. This is ideal. It's not always the case, but they want this. It's theoretically the best thing you can have is on the nanomoles, which is like, the nanoscale, below micro. They want something that is effective, potent, strong, and pure on the nanoscale. To them, when you take, it affects you, very profoundly. They like that because of money, right? Then they can make a lot more. They sell a little tiny bit, and it's stronger that way. For instance, a corollary would be fentanyl, right? We have this terrible fentanyl crisis in the country. A couple grains, literally a couple grains of it can kill you. The average overdose is about 2 milligrams. And that is not much at all. It's literally like a few grains of this stuff. Very few drugs are like that. Then there's carfentanil, which is an analog of fentanyl. They just made it even more potent, and even less of it can kill you. And so that's a huge problem. So when it comes to cannabinoids, it's not that there's some sort of toxic profile or anything. It's that THC is very strong at a very small amount, and CBD is very strong at a very high amount. You need more CBD to get the effect that you would want for it medicinally than you would THC. If you were to take 10 milligrams of THC, you might be on the floor. You can't even. I would totally be on the floor. I wouldn't be able to walk. It'd be too much. 10 milligrams of CBD is nothing. Give me 100 milligrams. Give me 500 milligrams, because the body processes it differently, and because of its strength. Mhm.
So I had an idea.
Yeah,
Stick with me.
I'm here.
It's a little bit out of the pocket, but I think you and I work together.
Let's do it.
Kokopelli's new product. We're going to combine testosterone and CBD.
Yes.
So we can have both steroids and CBD together. So you can get swole while reduce swelling.
Yes. Honestly,
I'm just
it'd probably be really great for athletes, to reduce inflammation and all the high impact movements. It's very,
100%.
yeah, a daily.
While gaining muscle mass, I feel like there's a market for it.
I think so. And what's interesting, I remember I had a bodybuilder friend, and back in the day, I remember him saying something. He said he's never met a muscular person who smokes marijuana, and it's twofold. One, it's probably hard to get to the gym all the time, and be consistent when you're high, but also you get the munchies. THC activates, that part of, I think it's the amygdala or the hypothalamus, which is responsible. I should know this, but that was my bachelor's degree. It's responsible for your appetite, and THC turns that off in a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people. And you just unregulated, you just eat, you crave things, you have this insatiable appetite. CBD doesn't do that. So the medical benefits and the potential of CBD is huge. There's also other cannabinoids that are less studied that might be even better. But it seems to be, if you just look at Mother Nature, she gives you what you need. And if the plant is naturally the most abundant in CBD, then there's probably a natural reason for that. And I think it's kind of nice that the industry chose that molecule, that most abundant one in the plant, to try to give people, instead of looking for the other ones that are trace and not necessarily as profound of an effect on your body.
That's awesome. I don't know about you, Jess. I've learned a lot today. I'm just saying.
So surprised.
Yeah,
No,
that's awesome.
I didn't mean that. Felt
No.
like I'm just
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Like I did learn a lot. You truly added value.
Thank you.
And I thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. It's I've found that's where we're at. People there's new things happening all the time. There's constant innovation. And the one thing that needs to keep up with that is our knowledge of these things. AI is a great example, right? It's being used everywhere. It's important. Whether you want to use it or not, it's unfortunate, but like so many companies are using it. And if you fall behind the trend, then you look at you say, oh, this is scary. I'm sure when they first came out with the microwave, people were worried about putting their food in. What is this device? It just heats my food up. Then we learned it was actually bad if you stood next to the microwave. It actually does give radiation. So that's what that little dotted mesh is. I can't remember the name of it, but it actually prevents the microwaves from coming out. It kind of keeps them all in. It's a very interesting basic physics principle. And that's how with like everything. And so when it comes to medicine, we're in this world now where, at least in America, the pharmaceutical industry is out of control. The power they have in the media, the power they have over people's lives, and how they've coupled their power with insurance companies to really drive up prices. People talk about insulin. It's really, really cheap to make insulin, but they charge a lot for it. And so people need to start looking at, okay, what can I do to decouple my health from big pharma as much as possible? Because then you're not only doing something that might be better for you, healthier or more affordable, but it's also in a way protesting or boycotting with your dollars, and then industries will have to follow. If people found a natural insulin producing plant or something where you could just eat this thing and you're getting your insulin, you don't have to put a needle in, you don't have to do all that stuff, the industry would overnight, they would start adapting and giving to you cheaper and safer, and they'd figure these things out. But they purposely silo this knowledge from people, lie, and we know they've been caught in lies. There's so many lawsuits about it, and it's all for profit. And I think the more people learn about alternative medicine, the more the industry will have to start regulating themselves in a more benevolent way, and not just seeking profits, but also seeking to retain patients in custody. And to do that, you're going to have to give people what they want. But if people don't speak up and they don't tell each other and they're not willing to try something new, then you have a problem. And so what's interesting is, you talk about your mom with the dog, she was willing to try something she was not comfortable with at all because of how much she loves her animal. And then there you go, it helped her dog tremendously. I have a pet product. It's 2 different tinctures, a 3,000 and 6,000, same formula as the humans. So that's kind of my thought process. Okay, if we can eat it, then we can feed it to our dogs. I don't like to. Everyone has a different thought about your animals, but it's good to be able to feed them what you would eat. And it's so potent that when they ingest it, it helps their inflammation, their arthritis. If they're old, their personality comes back. It gives them a new lease on life. And if they're young but really anxious, it calms them down. So I found that too for being in the car, going to vet appointments, or separation anxiety when you leave for work. Give your dog some CBD and they calm down. Now, of course, it doesn't work for every dog, right? It's not a silver bullet, but it works for most in my experience. And I think that the more people talk, especially word of mouth, and I think nowadays word of mouth is even stronger because everyone's always
Mhm.
on the internet and everyone is more than an arm's length away because of the digital overend. So it's actually really nice when someone's going to look you in the eyes and tell you, hey, I had this experience. I think you should share it with me. Then they're gonna be, okay, let me try this too. Versus perhaps just people telling them something on the TV or on the internet. So there's like a duality where the technology is good, but it's also bad. And it's like everything in moderation. Find who you trust and what sounds good, do some research on it, and then make
Mhm.
a decision. And I think
Absolutely.
that, yeah, there's just like a lot of promise. And what's even cooler. There are thousands of cannabinoids, so we have yet to discover perhaps even the best one out there.
Cure for cancer. Oh,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's actually two things. One thing I talked about earlier, but for cancer, there are some studies that show it can help reduce cancer cell size and stunt cancer cell growth. Some preliminary studies, and it's a very specific type of cancer. I want to say it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was that. And they showed high dose CBD was helping with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma remission in certain patients. That's pretty awesome. And then about the drug thing and withdrawals, there's a study that shows high dose CBD can help people get off of drugs. So people having alcohol withdrawals or benzodiazepine withdrawals or opiate withdrawals, if they're taking high dose CBD while going through withdrawals, it helps ease their symptoms. And that's huge because benzo withdrawals can kill you, so can alcohol withdrawals. And so a lot of people who want to quit can't because they're so deep in the trenches of it that it could hurt them. But if you then supplement with high dose CBD, they could actually make it through. And so that was it's just crazy, all the new stuff they're figuring out and all these studies showing that this hemp plant or the cannabis plant, can benefit you in ways you never even think.
I love it. Well, if you don't mind, tell us again um, where we can get Cocoa Belly hemp, where it can be found, where we can send people that we're going to be talking to, because this is absolutely going to be on top of our subject over the next week with our friends and family. Um,
Beautiful.
where can we send them to so that way they can get some of this high dose CBD and Cocoa Belly hemp?
Definitely. So you can find me if you just Google Kokopelli CBD or Kokopelli hemp, you'll find me. The website is www.trykokopelli.com. There you can see everything. I have some more products I haven't uploaded yet, just smaller sizes, but the ones that are up there are the flagship products that work the best, the strongest
Perfect.
dosage. Um, I'm going to also be getting some deals up there soon. If you use code CBD at checkout, you get 15% off, and I can ship anywhere. I think there's some restrictions, but West Virginia is fine. And yeah, West Virginia is good. I think it's like Idaho and like North Dakota. I have to double check. There's only like two places where it can be an issue, but that's only with THC. So again, there's no problem with my product. Um, and then I'll be starting a YouTube channel at some point soon, so maybe I'll try to put this up there. That'll be Coco Pelli Hemp, and yeah, just online for now. And I'm trying to branch out and go to more places, but the online store is great. But for you two, I want to ask you guys a question. What is it that you guys do?
Well, we are real estate. So Jess works for her W-2 is mortgage lending officer, but I started my own real estate investment company that buys and sells real estate, property management, wholesaling, fix and flipping, raising private capital, essentially trying to break the norm for real estate. People didn't think that there was any other way to buy properties other than just going through a bank. I try to educate people to show that there's ways to do this without going through traditional institutions and with creative financing specifically. And that's what kind of our claim to fame. So
Interesting. So this is kind of like the sub two community and the
yeah,
financing angle. So
yeah,
I'm very interested in that. So is my family and friends. And it's awesome that that's what you guys do, because our barrier to entry really is we're not sure about it. It sounds too good to be true, and we've never done this before, but we all want
yeah.
it. We know that this is a great way to make passive income and to set yourself up for retirement. So, what would you say to someone who says, honestly, I think it's too good to be true. I don't want to try it because I think I'll mess it up.
I would say you're right and you're wrong. So you're right that it is too good to be true. Um, I am like a walking, talking testament of like why it shouldn't have worked, right? But I'm also a walking, talking testament of why it does. I got into it with absolutely no experience. I didn't know how to do real estate at all. I had never done my own real estate transaction in my life ever before I got into the sub two community. I got in and I've been in for almost 4 years now. I think we have to date close to, I don't know, 100 doors, Jess. I don't know what we got now. We got probably 100 doors. We average between our fix and flips, our buy and holds, and the wholesaling, probably 6 to 10 deals a month that we do. Our own property management company, we are licensed and ready to go, but we're trying to get licensed in Ohio, and then we're going to make a huge jump to do property management and show people that property management is a tool to be better. It's not something that you have to look at as, oh crap, I got to pay this line item, at the end of the year type of thing. You know what I mean? We're trying to, everything that we're getting into, it's what we spend money on in real estate. We're trying to come into ways to where we're breaking the mold. It's not what everybody thinks it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So absolutely. I think we're coming out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We're doing a done for you model for people just like yourself that, I don't think this is real kind of thing, but we'll show you how we raise capital. We'll wholesale you a deal. We'll show you how we do the rehab with our crews. If you want to flip the property and put it on the market, I have agents that we work with to where you could flip the property and make, 10, 15, $20,000 profit with no money out of your pocket.
Nice.
You want to keep it and you want to have your own rental portfolio, we can introduce you to lenders that you can do the refinance event, and then we'll manage the property for you. And it's an all in our backyard to where you can have, once you refinance it, you pay back your private money. You have no money out of your pocket at that point. Every month you make 300, 400, 500 bucks a month, but it's all an infinite cash on cash return because you have no money in the deal. Right. So you're getting an unlimited return for your investment, and we help you and curate and teach you every step of the way on how we do that. So it's kind of our assembly line process, which has allowed us to have the success. But
That's awesome.
and I say we, because I'm kind of the visionary behind the whole thing. I don't want to stay in the single family lane anymore. I'm looking at growing and getting into multifamily, but I had built this assembly line for myself. It's a shame for it to go to waste and not be used anymore just because it's not something that I want to do for myself anymore. So I want to bring people in like yourself that would be interested in learning this stuff, interested in going through this process, and then we can essentially systemize this to where you can do it 3, 4, 5 times a year if you wanted to do what's want. If you want an active income to where you can have money coming back, flip the properties. It's no sweat off my back. I don't care what you do with them. If you'd rather have rental portfolios, you know what I mean, to where you can get the depreciation and the benefits and everything at the end of the year, plus you do this for 2, 3, 4 years, you have 15, 20, 25 properties at that point that, it really sets you apart financially for what you're capable of doing to what you are right now. And it's all done for you through our program. So
Wow. So what's the name of your
And Eric, just like I was apprehensive
Mhm.
of CBD, I was also apprehensive of for you. It took me what, 2 years?
Yeah.
I had to see, I had to verify, I
Mhm.
had to have you try it and watch other people before I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm like that person that sits back on both sides of what you guys
Mhm.
would, and now I'm like, "All right, this might be something."
That's so
Yeah.
very interesting. So then you set up systems in place that kind of can just function in a way without you if you want to continue the sub to creative financing, all these different investment tools or techniques, you would say.
Yeah.
And then what's the name of your business?
My business is Rich Investments Group.
Rich
That's my parent company.
Mhm.
The community that we're going to build that does this program,
Mhm.
we're going to kind of build our own community of people to come in and do these things. We're going to be teaching free seminars for people to come in and look. We're going to build kind of like a sub two community. I'm not going to go full fledged sub two because, man, I love Pace Morby. He is a monster, though. I mean, that dude is absolutely on the next level, and I don't know that I have the wavelength to be able to be that. Right? I'm not trying to be the next Pace Morby. I'm trying to be this Eric Richards. You know what I mean? That's my goal. So, like, I want to build a community. I want to bring people in. I want to provide value, but I don't want it to get too big that I can't also be
Mhm.
um, beneficial to the people that come in as well. I feel like the value I bring is very limited. Like I can't do 18,000 people. I can help, you know,
Mhm.
3 or 4 and put people on the right path and really change their lives. And that's really what I want to do. Um, but I think we're going to call that community the pathway forward because it's not necessarily just real estate. That's something that I can teach and I can be very, very valuable in knowing. But we want to bring in other experts in different fields as well that kind of hold up the the things that we want to value. And I think we have 4 pillars, Jess. Physical, mental, financial, and social. Right. So I think you would fall and under for the physical side of it, the physical benefits of CBD and what it can do and help your body heal and regenerate and join, like cold plunging, as far as it's like nobody knew about it 2 years ago, but now
Mhm.
everybody's got a cold plunge at the gym. You know what I mean? Like that's something that can absolutely be like CBD is moving forward. It's got so many natural benefits to it that initially people had misconceptions about. Like, why would I get into a big ice tub? You know what I mean? But it's got so many proven um, health benefits for regeneration, for um, getting rid of inflammation, for reducing heart rates, when doing all of these things. I think there's a lot of those factors that if people just give it a chance, if we can highlight something like that, CBD and what you're doing can absolutely fit that mold. So,
Cool.
yeah, it's very interesting. I'd love to be able to
Yeah.
follow up after the um, this podcast and stuff like that. Maybe we can catch some time within the next week.
Absolutely.
Let's get on. I'll answer any question you have as far as real estate, and we can see how we can get you moving forward on your journey as well.
That'd be amazing. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then
J-
sorry, a question, the real estate you've done, is it only in West Virginia, or you do it all over the place?
we do West Virginia and Ohio.
Okay. And then do you have
Yeah.
to live in the community you're doing it in, or you're able it's something you can do essentially remotely, or do you have to fly out?
So we tried the remotely. I had a couple, I think 1 or 2 properties we had up in Pittsburgh, um, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
That's a much larger metro market that we thought that we'd have a lot more opportunities in. But what we found is without the proper resources, it's really, really hard to manage it. So
Mhm.
if you're just getting started, having something that is remote, it's probably not the most ideal way of doing it.
Okay.
You have to really, really have systems and processes in place to protect yourself.
Mhm.
And it's not like you can just drive to the property and make sure that you're not being taken advantage of, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
we switched from that and we started back here locally. We have about 4 counties between Ohio and West Virginia that we deal with right now. It's Western Ohio and Eastern West Virginia.
Okay.
There's kind of the Ohio River is kind of the border that we work off of, just because it's the third largest river in the country. There's
Nice.
there's tons of industrial trafficking, recreation, things like that. That 4 seasons of the year, you can absolutely expect that there's going to be revenue that you can pull from it, right? But it's what we have done is we've created this model to be able to take small town America and take all of these markets that people are ignoring. Like you take other investors, they're looking like it's got to have a 50,000 population or better. It's got to be growing by 5% a year. We've got to have this median income. We've got to have this. We've got to have that, or we're not even interested in it. We get rid of all of those misconceptions. Like we're thriving and growing in towns of 6, 7, 8,000 people or better. You know what I mean? And we're going in and revitalizing a lot of these older buildings that people don't think about, and people are thinking, oh, they're eyesores or there's nothing here. We get a lot of properties that are off market properties from people that are distressed sellers, tired landlords that, you know, they picked up 15, 20 properties, you know, fixed them themselves and rented them out. And then their kids have watched them change toilets for 20 years. And now their kids don't want anything to do with it. Well, who do you leave that legacy to? Who do you leave those opportunities to? There's got to be somebody that steps in. So we have done a remarkable job about being able to step in and use our reputation and our guidelines to revitalize those opportunities. So yeah, it's been a crazy 3-4 years for sure.
Yeah,
But
I would say that
but
you really hit the.
but yeah, large portion of the portfolio and everything we built was all built off creative financing.
Wow.
So sub to community absolutely works. It is too good to be true. I will tell you that. Like there are a lot of opportunities there that never should have happened. You know what I mean? Like we had lunch today and I was just we submitted a deal earlier this week to buy a $1.2 million multifamily property that we're going to end up doing with no money out of our pocket. You know what I mean? Like
That's awesome.
It's insane. It's going to be, I think, 14 or 16 doors that, because we know how to do this and we know how to process it and know how to, you know, be knowledgeable on the structuring. If it makes sense and it solves problems, people will do it. And that's what a lot of financial institutions don't want people to know about. And I'll say that because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac actually changed their regulations on sub two deals for people that if you sub to a property and you try to go and buy another property, like they're blocking you now. Like it's pretty insane. Like we've run into that on a couple things. So knowing how to get through the regulations and know how to work outside of the system while gaming the system is absolutely crucial in the coming years. So
definitely, yeah, it sounds similar. I'm trying to do similar things with the pharmaceutical industry, medical industry, and you've done it with real estate, banking, and like housing industry. Do you see them ruining this whole thing? Are they, you know, these banks and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, can they put a total stop to creative financing? Or
they can't put a stop to it. They can just make it more difficult.
okay,
There, for every regulation that they make, there are workarounds. You know what I mean? The boogeyman for sub two deals is the due on sale clause, right? We just went through this last year, and Jess could speak probably to it more than I could. We had a property that we did a sub two deal on, one of the very first sub two deals I've done. The gentleman wanted to go and buy a new house, and the bank stopped him because his name was no longer on the title for the property that he carried the loan on. So they weren't letting him buy another house. A year before that, he could have. The regulations allowed him to because he was far enough away from the original primary home that it didn't correlate, but because they changed the regulations, it blocked him. So what we did is the realtor called the bank, and the bank said, all right, well, if you don't own this anymore, then we're going to have to call it due. And then we got involved, and ultimately we deeded it back to them, set it up on, I believe, a lease option to where we still have equitable title to purchase the property, but it's in his name now, and he's using it as an investment property, which allows him to then go buy another property. right?
Okay.
And the bank allows it because as long as it's in his name, they don't really care. You know what I mean? We still collect the rent. We still are managing the property. We still do everything we need to do with it. He can't sell it out from underneath of us or do anything to eliminate our value that we put into the property.
Mhm.
As soon as we're ready, it's done. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there are workarounds, and there's no way they're going to be able to come up with every workaround for every situation.
Hmm.
But it goes back to making sure that you're knowledgeable about how things progress. If you never learn your trade, and I'm sure you have this in the pharmaceutical world, like there are new things that come out monthly almost.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That if you're not keeping up with it and you're not being active in your field,
Yeah.
you're going to be left behind. So
Interesting. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much for that information. Yeah, I'd love to connect with you guys more about that and talk.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're hour and 10 minutes in, so I would say this is probably a really good place for us to stop. I've really enjoyed having you on. Like I said, Jess and I have learned a bunch. Everybody, rewind 20 minutes outside of my rant and rave about real estate to find out every place that you can go and get pure, clean, high CBD. So we got product merch right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Are you on Facebook, anything like that?
So yeah, I'm on Instagram at Kokopelli CBD.
Okay.
Fledgling, it's still new, still trying to find the best way to build that platform. And then the YouTube is come up at some point where I'll start to post these types of videos and maybe some other educational content where I just talk to the camera, talk to the people about CBD. And that will be Kokopelli Hemp. And the website is trykokopelli.com.
Love it. Just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
YouTube channel, CBD PhD.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Like
There's a brand. There's CBD MD.
that's it.
Yeah.
Like you put that out there and just do your educational videos and start putting information and everything out there. I think it mass produces itself. You'll be creating clones to where you're going to be changing the concept of a lot of people. So
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And
not a problem, bud.
yeah,
I appreciate having you on, everybody.
you too.
Thanks for joining for another episode of Main Street to Millionaires. Until next time, Eric Richards, Jess, Taran, thank you very much. And we'll follow up shortly.
You as well. Nice to meet you, Jess, and you too, Eric. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you.